Okay, these are the tools you're going to need for this job. So we got a flashlight, a mirror, those are optional. These are also optional. These are electric impacts. We got a 1/4 inch extension, a long one. That's only if you have an electric impact. This wobbly, only if you have an electric impact or ratchet. Okay, this is something you're going to need. You're going to need some sort of 10mm, the battery terminal. An assortment of ratchets. You could probably get due with just a normal one. We got a 3-inch 3/8 extension, a 14mm 3/8 shallow. Gonna need those. A 14mm wrench. That kind of goes with these. You could get the job done with this. You're not gonna have fun. We have a 3/8 stubby ratchet. A 1/4 inch over 2. If you want 1/4 inch sockets, that's for the battery. Or that's just for the battery B positive hot lead for the starter. And then the 12mm, which is also for the B positive hot lead on the starter. And that's what you're gonna need. Okay, so we have this 2017 Honda Accord, and we're gonna be replacing the starter. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take off this negative battery terminal. To take off this terminal, it is a single 10mm nut. Just loosen it up, and then we will wiggle that off. Just tuck it down there where it can't get back up to that terminal. Okay, so we're at the front of the vehicle. You're going to be right underneath. So here's your oil pan. Got your axle shaft, exhaust, and this is your starter right here. So essentially, you're going to have your one. You can't really see it. It's right there. It's a 14mm, and then your other 14mm is going to be this really long one that kind of sticks out right there, about to touch it. Okay, so those are going to be your 2 bolts that hold it in. And then what we've got your starter signal lead, which is disconnected right here. There's a tab on the top. You're just going to push the tab down and then pull. Can't get it with my left hand. And then this is your hot lead, your battery positive, and that's probably going to be held on by a 10 or 12mm bolt. We'll know when we get there. Okay, I've got you guys up there. I don't really know how much you're going to be able to see. Unfortunately, this car has a lot of aluminum underneath it, and my mount for my GoPro is magnetic. So, you're going to get what you get going forward, I guess. So we're going to get this connector where we're just going to push down on the tab and then wiggle it off. So if you can see that right there, you just push down on that little piece right there and then pull it off. Okay, and then this wiring harness, you'll see there's a little tab. Maybe you won't, not sure. I'm gonna pull that back. That's gonna free this harness up. Underneath it, you'll see this little green tab. It's gonna help you if you just squeeze those and separate the starter signal from the rest of this harness. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Hopefully your car is not as oily as this one, because starter and oil don't mix. So this guy is aware of that, and he does not want to fix his oil leak at this time. So now that we got those 2 disconnected, it's going to give us a lot more room to play. So we're going to peel this off, this rubber boot. Just reach up in there and kind of peel it backwards, and that's going to give you access to the nut, which is on the back side right here. You can't really see it. I know you can't, because I can't. So we're gonna kind of get this piece out of the way, and it looks like a 12. Okay, so we got ourselves a ratchet, small one, 12mm deep. We're just gonna stick it up in here, go ahead and loosen that nut. And then once you get it a couple turns, you'll be able to just get your fingers on it and kind of get it the rest of the way. Okay, so there is our nut. And then you'll be able to just pull that piece of harness right off. You can stick it anywhere. You disconnected your battery, you're not gonna have any issues. If you don't disconnect your battery, you cannot stick that anywhere. And you gotta watch out for your wrench as well, because you can get some fireworks going. So, next we're gonna tackle our 214s, which you might be able to see. One's down here, and one is right there. I'm going to do this top one first. I'm using a pretty normal size ratchet and a 14mm shallow socket. I lost you guys. I hit you with the ratchet. Hopefully you can still see. Let's see. Well, we'll hope for the best. Okay, so we're just gonna loosen that. They're not super tight. And then once that one's cracked loose, you can just back it out by hand. Okay, and there's our bolt. Set it to the side. Okay, now this other one, kind of in a weird spot because of the axle. So you're gonna have to put your ratchet in here any way you can. And mine is gonna go right on just like that, or not. I can't really get my ratchet in there, so I'm gonna try a wrench. Okay, so I got a 14mm wrench. Let's see if we can get it in here any which way. And that's gonna be pretty tight because of the fact that we're using a really short wrench to get in here. But once we get that going, same deal, you could just do it by hand once we get in there. I'm going to be a little bit of a cheater. I'm going to use electric wrap. So if you have access to these tools, great. If not, it's just going to take you a smidge longer to work that bolt out by hand. Okay, now we have a starter. So we're just gonna pull this thing right out. we got our replacement starter. We're just gonna slide this thing right in. We'll line up the hole nice. We're gonna support this with one hand. We're gonna use our other hand to start our first bolt. Probably gonna have to wiggle it around a little bit to get them to line up. Once that first one is started, you can go ahead and grab your second bolt. Hold that starter up with one hand, start the second bolt, and then from here you can just tighten them down by hand if they'll go. I'm going to cheat again. I'm going to use a ratchet. So just snug that bottom one up. This top one, I'm not going to be able to use a ratchet because I can't get it in there. It's a little too tight. Okay. I'm going to start with this top bolt. And I can give you torque specs, but it's pretty tight in here, and I don't really think that a torque wrench is gonna fit. So we're just gonna get this snugged up. You're gonna feel how tight it is when you take it out. You're gonna wanna get it similar to that. Obviously you pull a little bit harder to break that bolt loose because it's been sitting there for so long. So I'm using like a 10-inch ratchet, and I'm pushing up on it, I would say, pretty decent. But you'll feel it. It's gonna kind of stop, and then you just give it a little bit more. And that's where you wanna go. If you strip these bolts out, you're gonna have a really bad day. So we're just gonna be careful with that. Now I'm gonna grab my wrench. We're gonna work this one as tight as we can with the wrench, and then I'm gonna try to get a ratchet on it. So that's pretty much all we can get with the wrench. I have some pretty fancy ratchets that you probably are not going to have access to, but apparently it seems like it's not going to matter, because it still won't fit in there. So ignore that statement. I'd like to use this one, but it just won't fit. So what we ended up with was a shallow 14, a 3-inch extension, and then this funky ratchet that I got from Snap-on that has a swiveling head. And we're just gonna do the same thing. We're just gonna snug this one up. Where'd you go this time? There you are. Okay. We're back.
You already got your show?
Yeah. Came on Saturday. Okay, so we are all snugged up. I feel like you guys are looking more at me than you are at the starter at this point. There we go. Okay, so now that we got our bolts in, we're gonna move to our starter hot lead, which is our big one. There's a notch on there. It's gonna slide into a notch on this piece of plastic around the B positive stud. So we're just gonna get this thing lined up and pushed on, and then your new starter is probably gonna come with a lock washer and a nut. Your lock washer goes on first, nut goes on second. And this is, you can't really see up in there. So this is gonna be one of those like do by feel kind of things. See with your fingers. My fingers are blind right now. Okay, so once you get started, if you can see up in there, great. You're gonna wanna look to make sure your washer's in there. I can't see, so I'm gonna grab it. And with my mirror, I can see that I did get the washer in there, which is important because the washer is going to create tension on that nut to keep it from falling off. So now we're going to go back to our 12 millimeter. I'm going to use the socket to put it on all the way by hand. And then I'll go in with the ratchet. And we're just gonna go until it's snugged up. You'll feel it kind of stop. And then we're gonna go a little bit more than that. These studs come out of plastic, so they're fairly easy to break, so you don't really want to go too tight or you'll break that stud off in the starter. So we're just gonna get it to where it's snugged up there. Let's give it a smidge more. And then we're good. So now we'll make sure we get this boot on here. And then we're gonna take this lead and it kind of goes underneath, I think. We'll slide this piece on first, see how this sits. And then, yeah, so this one's gonna go like that, kind of through here. And then we're gonna plug this starter in. You hear a little click, and then you're done. You're gonna go back up and you'll plug your starter or your battery in. Okay, so now we're just gonna put that back up. We'll tighten that down. I need 2 hands. Okay. And then it should start. Let's see. Fingers crossed. There we go. And that's a starter.